Why hello folks, this is Downhive Radio, and today I want to talk about the Gang War 3 supplement for Necromunda. With around 90 pages, this book is almost twice as thick as the previous one, and filled with all kinds of goodness. Besides the rules for the currently new Vanzar House Gang, this book contains rules for brutes, who are a new type of hangers-on, pets, expanded equipment lists and trading post, including various new types of items and a bunch of new scenarios as well as new campaign modes. So let's flip through it and have a quick look at things. Now, my version is not the English one, so don't be confused if the layout is slightly different, and please apologize if I get any of the new game terms wrong. After the obligatory table of contents and introduction, the book starts off with fluff and rules for House Vanzar. As I plan to do a separate in-depth review on this new faction, including the models and cards, here I will simply glance over it real quickly. In general, Vanzar gang members have 1 point higher ballistic skill than their counterparts from any of the other gangs so far. This is balanced out by being slow, low wounds, mediocre cool, and high cost. Also, they don't employ projectile weapons, but sport laser versions of assault rifles and shotgun, which are more reliable and again more expensive. So they generally are a low model count shooty faction. This chapter is followed by expanded equipment lists for all the currently existing houses. They mainly include more of the common items from the trading post, but it feels good to have these options from the start, especially with special and heavy weapons, which are usually quite an investment credit-wise. Also, finally you can buy a chainsword in Necromunda. Next up are the brutes. This is a new type of hangers-on that can be fielded in combat and gain experience. As the name suggests, brutes are tough, heavy hitters. This far, they include the infamous M-Bot as well as the Servitor Ogren. Both are basically repurposed mining servitors based on different life forms, and we actually get a sneak peek of the upcoming M-Bot model. As you can guess, both are geared towards close combat, with 2 attacks, weapon skill 3+, and strength 5, and brutal close combat weapons, as well as very resilient with toughness 5 and 3 wounds each, plus eventual armor. The M-Bot seems a little more fun so far, because you can disable its safety protocols and make it go completely berserk, potentially endangering your own crew. This is followed by a chapter about servo skulls and exotic beasts. Both count as equipment and must be assigned to a handler. They must try to stay within a certain radius of that handler, and their special rules mostly affect him or her. There are sensor, medical, and weapon skulls, who practically do what they sound like. Exotic beasts can gain experience and be captured. For each of the current factions there is a preferred pet that mirrors its attributes. So much so that most of the beasts' profiles read like they were something between a close combat-oriented ganger or champion of the corresponding house, with the exception of House Vanzar's cyberarachnids, who are a little more tricky. They are weaker and cheaper, but spread fear and carry web and toxin weapons, and you can have 3 of them. The one rare beast that every faction might get is a caryatid. They look like a blue bat-winged carob, and are considered lucky charms. In fact, their clairvoyant abilities allow their handler to ignore 1 hit per round if he or she succeeds a will test. The trading post now includes a large variety of weapons and equipment, including heavy weapons like heavy bolters, multi-melters, and plasma cannons, as well as field armors, which grant unmodified saving throws with fun side effects, and status items, which grant mainly campaign bonuses unless they are servo skulls or exotic beasts. This is followed by a chapter about campaign modes, where there are variations on how you play a campaign depending on what kind of story you want to tell. For instance, you can play a deadly tragedy where a lot of people die, or you can just scale up the conflict, draw a map and fight about huge territories. There are also campaign events that influence every player and drive the narrative forward. After that, we get 10 new scenarios, some of which are very flavorful, and maybe a little silly if you play them several times in a row, but it really feels cool to have all that choice, making each game very different. Lastly, there are rules for multiplayer games. Now, everyone who takes interest in that probably already house rules something fairly similar. But these rules come with 2 additional multiplayer scenarios, what I find really nice to have. So, besides the introduction of a new faction, this book seems to be geared towards campaign play. It basically triples the number of available scenarios and adds a lot of flavor to the games with overarching stories and campaign events. Also, the new equipment options with a lot more variety and shiny objects like pets and giant robots add a lot of incentive to actually grow your gang. On top of that, the different types of campaigns allow for quite different experiences, even playing several campaigns in a row. But even if you don't fancy campaign play or House Vanzar, you still get all the equipment lists, scenarios and exotic beasts, which is still a win in my book. So if you have something cool to point me towards, please do so, and to improve my foreign language skills, please point out any significant mistakes I made. And if you like this, spread the word, boost my channel a little so I can bring you more tips and reviews around the hobby.